Professor Trilnith adjusted her photonic lenses, the holographic whiteboard flickering with swirling blue images of Earth. The fabled Death World. A dozen younglings of scales, fur, and chitin leaned forward, tails flicking and feathers rustling in hushed anticipation. "Class," she began, her antennae swaying gently. "Today we continue our series on extreme planetary biomes. And yes," she paused dramatically, "we are speaking again of humans." A nervous titter rippled through the room. Even the bravest hatchlings knew. Humans were a puzzle wrapped in a threat and dipped in bewilderment. They live on a world with seismic instability, extreme temperatures, predatory megafauna, and microbes that would melt our cell walls in seconds. Yet they thrive. Why? Her clawed finger tapped the hologram. Earth rotated, highlighting hurricanes, volcanoes, wildfires. One furred student raised a paw. "Professor Trilnith, do they possess an extra organ, a hidden exoskeleton?" Trilnith's eye fans fluttered with amusement. "No, little Dra. Their biology is not remarkable. On paper, strong bones, moderate muscle density, redundant organs, but—" She snapped a tentacle for effect. "Their fuel is key." Murmurs swirled. "Fuel?" asked Zil, a slim amphibioid who always smelled faintly of pondweed. "Yes, Zil. Humans consume a bitter, dark liquid, extracted from roasted seeds of a tropical shrub. It contains a neuroactive alkaloid called—" She squinted, rolling the alien pronunciation off her tongues. "Caffeine." Students scribbled furiously on their tablets. "Professor, is it a nutrient?" asked a spindly insectoid perched near the ceiling. Trilnith tapped her datapad, projecting human schematics, brain synapses flaring under chemical stimulus. "No, it has negligible calories, but it ignites human metabolism. They consume it daily, some hourly." A collective gasp. "But why drink something so bitter if it provides no sustenance?" Zil whispered. Professor Trilnith's voice dropped conspiratorially. "It keeps them awake, alert. Their cognitive functions sharpen, reflexes heighten. Some humans ingest so much they tremble like plasma conduits." The classroom buzzed like an apiary. A bold reptilian student hissed, "If we drank it, would we gain their stamina?" Trilnith paused. The idea should have been absurd, but curiosity was the most dangerous thing in any classroom. "Tomorrow," she declared, voice firm but tail twitching with excitement, "we procure authentic coffee. One among you shall volunteer to test its effects for science." Outside the transparent dome, twin suns rose over the academy spires, as a classroom of young aliens dreamed of harnessing the Deathworlders' impossible vigor, unaware they were about to discover exactly why humans are feared and admired in equal measure. The next cycle, the classroom pulsed with a tension usually reserved for final examinations or news of an asteroid strike. Professor Trilnith stood at the front, flanked by a sealed, temperature-controlled crate adorned with bright hazard labels in a dozen galactic tongues. Biohazard, caffeine source, handle with care. Inside lay 3 vacuum-packed bags of genuine Earth-grown coffee beans, courtesy of a diplomatic courier who delivered them with a wink and a whispered, "Good luck, Professor." Trilnith extended her sensory tendrils over the crate. Even through the seal, an acrid roasted aroma bit at her olfactory sensors, tickling a primitive alarm in her hindbrain. This was not normal plant matter. This was chemical temptation weaponized. Her students clustered in a tight semicircle, eyes wide. Some pressed recording nodes to their foreheads, ready to upload every second to the public knowledge net. A few wore insulated gloves, just in case the beans spontaneously combusted. The human's reputation inspired caution. "Who," Trilnith asked, her voice echoing under the biodome, "will volunteer to test the effects of the fabled human fuel?" Silence. Tails froze, scales rippled and feathers drooped. None moved. Then slowly, One slender appendage lifted. Zil, the curious amphibioid who always asked questions others feared to voice. "I will," Zil croaked, throat sac trembling. "For science." A wave of squeals, chitters, and rapid clicks of admiration swept through the room. Trilnith nodded gravely. "Very well. Zil, please approach. You are a brave being." One assistant carefully ground a handful of beans under a sterile hood. The aroma intensified, a bitterness so potent it made one of the chitinous students sneeze so violently he lost a mandible cap. Another helper poured steaming water over the grounds into a human-designed glass vessel, a gift from an Earth ambassador who had quipped, "Don't say I didn't warn you." The liquid dripped into a transparent cup, black as a singularity, shimmering with tiny oil blooms on the surface. Zil eyed it like a soldier facing a live plasma grenade. "Drink," Trilnith whispered. The entire room held its breath. Zil lifted the cup with trembling digits, inhaled the steam, and winced. "It smells dangerous." "Humans say it is," murmured a small furred student. With a final glance at his classmates, Zil tipped the cup back. One gulp, two. The reaction was immediate. Zil's throat pouch inflated. His dorsal spine snapped rigid. His pupils dilated into huge obsidian saucers. He trembled, then twitched, then let out a squeal so shrill it shattered a wall-mounted info panel. "Professor," Zil gasped, limbs vibrating uncontrollably. "I can see sound." Trilnith flicked her sensory fronds in alarm. "Vitals." Another student waved a scanner. Heart rate triple baseline, brain activity off charts. He says he feels unstoppable. Zil leapt onto a desk, bounded to the ceiling, rebounded off a wall, giggling like a hatchling hopped up on sugar fruit. He rattled off mathematical proofs no one had solved in centuries, then demanded more coffee. "No more," Trilnith commanded, though she had to dodge as Zil zipped past her, trailing hyperactive squeaks. The entire class stared at the half-empty cup, realizing this tiny portion was only a fraction of what an average human consumed daily. One student whispered, awestruck, "How are they not vibrating into another dimension?" Another gasped, "No wonder they conquered the stars. They run on this insanity." Professor Trilnith clutched her datapad, eyes wide, as Zil climbed a pillar upside down and sang an ancient battle chant. The lesson was clear. Deathworlders were terrifying enough, but what truly fueled their conquest of the galaxy was now plain to see: liquid rocket fuel, labeled simply coffee. Zil's caffeine rampage had become legend overnight. Clips of him sprinting vertically up the dorm walls, solving 3 unsolvable equations in the janitor closet, and reciting human pop songs backwards went viral across the galactic learning grid. Other schools called it reckless. Some called it a hoax. But deep down, every species was now gripped by a single unnerving thought. If one small student lost his mind on half a human cup, what happened when an entire human battalion drank it daily? Professor Trilnith found herself summoned to an emergency council of xenopsychologists. Dozens of distinguished minds from a dozen systems leaned in, fixated on the playback of Zil's caffeine-induced lecture on hyperdimensional math. One tentacled elder burbled in horror. "They choose to do this to themselves? Regularly?" Trilnith, still rattled, nodded. "Multiple times daily, sometimes more under stress. It is routine." Murmurs of disbelief echoed through the chamber. A spindly arthropoid clicked its mandibles in distress. "No wonder they win wars. It is not brute strength alone. It is a mind state bordering on controlled insanity." The council voted unanimously to restrict any open trade of coffee beans until further research, but the ban only made it more coveted. Black market shipments leaked in through Terran traders, who laughed at the council's panic. Back in Trilnith's classroom, students now eyed their lone human classmate, Specialist Kara Dunn, with a mix of dread and reverence. Kara found it hilarious. On the third morning after Zill's awakening, Kara arrived late, carrying a battered stainless steel travel mug. She slid into her seat, nodded at Trilnith, then took a long, noisy sip. Every eye locked on her throat as the liquid vanished inside her. Kara exhaled. Okay, good morning. Let's get started. One brave voice squeaked. How much is that? Kara checked her mug. About 600 milliliters. I'll have another before lunch. Gasps. A feathered classmate fainted. Trilnith barely caught her data slate before it clattered to the floor. Specialist done, Trilnith said cautiously. May I ask, why do humans indulge so recklessly in this neurochemical stimulant? Kara grinned, swirling the black depths of her mug. Simple. We came from a planet that tried to kill us every hour. The weather, the predators, the diseases. We adapted. Then we invented civilization, got bored, and discovered ways to make our blood run faster than our fears. She leaned forward, voice lowering conspiratorially. Coffee doesn't just wake us up. It reminds us we can outthink our panic. We don't freeze when the monsters come. We finish the cup, then we finish the monster. The class shuddered. Zill, newly released from medical observation, whispered with awe, "So you drink bravery." "Something like that." Kara winked. Trilnith scanned her notes. "Fascinating. So to fight death, you learn to harness chemical chaos." "Pretty much. And sometimes chocolate, or whiskey, or both." Kara stretched, flexing the muscles in her parasuit. "Anyway, who's ready for planetary tactics?" No one answered immediately. They were still watching the mug, as if it might leap at them. Zill, now the campus celebrity, shuffled closer to Kara. "If I train, could I drink a full cup one day?" Kara laughed, clapped his slim shoulder. "Stick with me, amphibian. We'll build your tolerance." "Maybe." Outside the lecture dome, a trio of undercover council observers jotted frantic notes for the next pan-galactic briefing. Humans drink liquid terror. They thrive on it. No known species can match this madness. Inside, the human just yawned, sipped, and began explaining how to outmaneuver a battleship while sleep-deprived, with coffee in hand.
By the fourth week, what started as a casual curiosity had mutated into a full-fledged interstellar phenomenon. Across the Galactic Federation's secured knowledge feeds, debates raged. Should humans be allowed to import unlimited coffee? Should other species dare to adapt to it? Or should it be classified as a controlled combat enhancer? In Professor Trilnith's classroom, the once ordinary xenobiology lectures had transformed into live demonstrations of human caffeine endurance. Every species that could stomach the risk took microscopic sips under strict observation. Most regretted it immediately, but a few students, like Zill, began microdosing, seeking a fraction of that terrifying human clarity. Kara Dunn, meanwhile, became both idle and cautionary tale. At dawn, she was usually seen jogging around the biodome with a steaming mug. At midday, she was often explaining complex orbital maneuvers while doodling threat analyses on the windows in marker. By evening, she was either wrestling the training bots or tutoring half the class in combat theory, still with a half-empty cup at hand. One afternoon, Trilnith discreetly called Kara aside. The professor's sensory fronds drooped in concern. "Specialist done. The council now considers your caffeine habit a Class 3 psychological hazard. They fear you might spread this fuel cult to unstable colonies." Kara nearly snorted coffee out her nose. "Cult? Professor, it's just coffee." Trilnith held up a portable hollow projector. It flickered to life, showing a clip from a mining outpost. Young alien recruits, now black-eyed and hyper-alert, were chugging crude percolations of local beans, mimicking human marines they'd seen on the net. Productivity was up 800%. So were emergency room visits. Kara cringed. Yikes. Okay, maybe a little cultish. That evening, the students gathered for what Trilnith announced as the final, controlled demonstration. A brewing station sat at the center of the classroom, encased in a reinforced dome with biometric locks. Beside it, a fresh shipment of Earth's strongest dark roast, Deathworlders' delight. Zil stood front and center, trembling with excitement. He had trained for this, consuming trace doses over weeks. Tonight, he would drink a full human shot. All systems clear? Trilnith asked, sensors scanning for fainting students. Kara gave Zil a gentle pat. Remember, sip slow. Breathe. Don't try to prove anything. Zil nodded, eyes locked on the swirling black brew. When the cup finally touched his lips, a hush fell. He drank. One gulp, and the class braced for chaos. Silence. Zil's dorsal spines rose, his eyes focused on a distant corner of the ceiling, as if seeing into quantum probability itself. He let out a calm, deep croak. I understand everything. Then he promptly collapsed, smiling blissfully. Kara checked his vitals. Perfectly safe, just rebooting. The students erupted in applause. Kara grinned, lifting her own mug. One day you'll build a resistance, Zil. Or maybe you won't. Either way, you're all learning a big lesson. Human strength isn't just muscle or weapons. It's the ability to dance with fear. Wide awake with one more cup. Trilnith recorded every word for the Federation archives. Tonight's data would rewrite entire diplomatic manuals. If ever there was a secret to the Deathworlders' relentless exploration, it was now obvious. Humanity ran on borrowed hours, reckless courage, and a drink so potent, other species could barely survive a sip. Outside the classroom, word spread like solar flares. Alien students whispered in dorms, if you want to think like a human, first you must survive their fuel. Diplomatic envoys drafted new coffee protocols. Smugglers rubbed appendages together in glee. And deep in the void, entire fleets wondered if they should fear humans more, or fear the day humans ran out of coffee.